just want to spend the next 5 minutes showing another feature that we've got, that we've created for our clients that do auto scheduling. And it's an automatic loop detector. Okay, so I'm going to open this project. And so when you have a lot of projects and you want to make sure that your team is updating consistently, regularly, we've built a tool called auto scheduling. Okay, now there's a job service inside P6 also, which allows you to move the data date and auto schedule. We've had some struggles with it though, with some of our larger clients. It doesn't always work properly, and what we're finding is sometimes it does error out. So we had built an auto scheduler for previous versions, so we are still using that with many clients. And what it lets you do is it lets you have the data date move in a regular, consistent manner. Okay, so when you're doing portfolio reporting on many capital projects or many outages as well, you want to make sure that that reporting method is consistent so that your data date is moved consistently. So what we found was when there's loops, which you don't always know because you might do a bunch of logic changes and you didn't have a chance to reschedule, you may not know that you made a loop by mistake. Okay, so we created this loop detector, and it works really, really well. And what it does is it does what it's called. It finds any loops and it shows it to you without having to schedule. Okay, because of course, if I hit F9, it's going to let me know the loops are there. Now, if it's just one loop, it's not that hard to go ahead and fix it up. Well, depending on what it is, because the loop might have a lot of activities and it's not always obvious where the loop came in. But I remember being on an outage and we were building a lot of the schedule and we were doing a lot of logic creation. And my colleague scheduled it and we had 100 loops. And yeah, he had to leave the room for a few minutes because choice words were coming out of the mouth. So that was disconcerting because now we had to trace down so many loops. And so something like this can be kind of handy for all sorts of purposes. So let me just show you kind of how it works. Okay, I've pre-created some loops and I'll go ahead and clean them out and you'll see how this thing works. Okay. So this is kind of obvious in a small little example here, but I've created a loop intentionally, of course, and it highlights where the loop is. So it's got the first activity as a stop sign and then the rest involved as a yield sign. Okay. So this can be super duper handy when you're trying to find the loop and figure out how to fix it. Okay. So when you schedule, you get the report, but this gives you nice visuals. So I can go ahead and clear this loop by clearing that logic tie, and I can rerun that. Okay, so I just created a few different examples just so you can see kind of how that looks. Now to rerun it, it's very much like what I did for the archiver. And I'm just going to clear that out just to give you an example. And you can see in this case, we didn't use a notebook. We just used a simple user-defined field to let you know that this project has loops, and it gives you just kind of an idea of how big the problem is. Okay. So when you're running auto scheduling, you need a dual thing, because if it can't schedule if there's loops. It cannot complete the calculation, the forward and backward pass. It can't complete it. So this is where this becomes really handy. Okay, so I'll keep clicking on that, but I'll go in here so we can see it inside of the tool. Okay, so there you go. So it clears it out. because it's run through and it sees it's fixed. So this would clear out. Okay, now if you had a filtered layout, this would be so handy, because then you can just keep working through the loops. Okay, now this is another thing that can be really useful for a less experienced scheduler who's learning how to use P6. This can happen easily, when you're building out logic. So this can be a really great little utility when you're coaching schedulers up, when you're working in a multi-scheduler environment. This can be very, very handy, because it could be another person who created the loop. So you're really like, how did that happen? How did this go awry?